So what made 2023 such a bad year? Let's talk about it. And what can we learn from it going into 2024? Freight rates were extremely low. Interest rates were literally at an all-time high. So because freight rates are extremely low, truck drivers are not fairly compensated for their work. A part of our normal lives was literally looking at the news and seeing bankruptcies, closures, layoffs. I mean, non-stop throughout the year, especially the second half of the year. Every time I open that news channel, all I see is more bankruptcies and layoffs. Now, it appears to be from the popularity of my last two videos that freight brokers are actually going extinct, and it might just be the thing of the past. Now, truck drivers, I feel for you because you guys got the shorter end of the stick. I mean, the constant waiting times, the layovers, the delays between pickups and deliveries. I mean, how much can we go through it, and what does 2024 have in store for us? So we're gonna talk a little bit about the freight rates and what they've done to trucking companies in this video. The second thing we're gonna talk about is interest rates, where they were this time last year versus where they are right now, and what has transpired and what effect the trucking companies have with the higher interest rates. So the third thing we're going to talk about is whether you're in the US or in Canada, I mean, these layoffs, bankruptcies, and closures are happening more and more frequent. It's actually part of our weekly news. I never know what to expect when I open the news. What I do know is I constantly read articles on bankruptcies, layoffs, and closures. Now, it's no secret based on the last two videos that I've done on brokers that they might just be going extinct over the next couple of years. So we'll talk a little bit about freight brokers and what has transpired with them over the last 6 months or in the last year. While all this is happening, we also have truck drivers that are not being fairly compensated because of the extremely low freight rates. I mean, truck drivers were probably making a lot more money 2 years ago than they were these last 8 months. Now, the last thing we're going to touch on in this video is you truck drivers out there. I mean, you guys have been through a lot this year. I mean, the delays between loads, the layovers, the waiting times, non-stop. I mean, this year has been a disastrous year. Whether you're a local driver, city driver, regional driver, long haul driver, doesn't matter who you are, you have seen the effects of a slowed down economy. Even you guys out there that are doing container shipping, 50% down this year. Now, us as a whole, as an industry, I mean, how much longer are we going to be able to take it? Let's get into some details. So interest rates. I mean, in 2023, the beginning, the Q1, January, February, March, interest rates, I was financing trucks, trailers. I was financing them at around 3.5 to 3.75%. By the end of the year, November, December, I was already financing trucks and trailers at about 6.5%. Now, owner operators out there, first time buyers, second time buyers, you know, small fleets, they were financing trucks at around 8.5 to 9%. And then by the end of the year, they were already with good credit. They were financing at around 10 to 12%. It has taken a huge toll on every single one of us, whether it's a smaller fleet, a bigger fleet, you know, an owner operator that has 1 or 2 trucks. The interest rates have made a huge difference. I mean, just for you to understand, I mean, somebody with, you know, the difference between 8% and 12%, it could be a difference of a monthly payment between $2,900 a month and $3,400, literally $400 or $500 every single month just went to interest rates, the hike of interest rates. Now, when you're paying a lot of money into interest rates, your capital, the amount of money that you have left over at the end of the month, that really takes a toll. So instead of having $10,000 at the end of the month, well, now you have $9,500 at the end of the month. Instead of having $2,000 at the end of the month, you have now $1,500 at the end of the month. So really, our profit margins are starting to get slimmer and slimmer in trucking because of interest rates. Now, freight rates is the next thing we're going to talk about. I mean, freight rates have gone down significantly as a national average between $2.60 per mile, $2.50 per mile. Then we saw it at $2.30, $2.20. When we thought $2.20 was, it wouldn't be able to go down even more, it went down even further to $2.10. And the last time that I checked, the national average was at 2.05 per mile. But what I see is that it's actually a little bit lower than that. It's about $1.98, $1.97, and that's how we closed off the year at the end of 2023. Now, what does that mean for profit margins? Think about it. If I'm running 10,000 miles, we'll take easy numbers, 10,000 miles, and I'm running it at $2.50 a mile, I'm grossing out $25,000 per month. Now, if I'm running at $1.96 per mile, multiply that by 10,000 miles, I'm talking about $19,600. That's a difference of $5,400 in gross income within 1 month producing the exact same miles. Now, I'm multiply that by, I mean, if you're a small fleet owner, if you're an owner operator that has 2 or 3 trucks, that's a difference of $15,000 plus every single month. If you have 10 trucks, that's a difference of $50,000 every single month. Now, if you have 100 trucks, that's a difference of $500,000 every single month, and you're still producing the same amount of miles. Okay, so this is taking a toll on everybody across the board. Now, the next point, bankruptcies, closures, layoffs. I mean, throughout the year, February, March, April, May, but in the last 6 months especially, it's nonstop closures and layoffs. I mean, I've done so many videos on this and so many articles that I could just link up over here and you can see them. The amount of layoffs, bankruptcies, brokerages going out of business. I mean, when did we ever hear of brokerages going out of business? And there's a lot of them right now that have gone out of business. Now, the worst part of all this is that, when a trucking company goes out of business or a brokerage company goes out of business, there's a lot of unpaid freight bills out there. So if that trucking company that went under owed 100 other trucking companies, $3,000 invoices, $4,000 invoices, they're not paying these $4,000 when they go bankrupt or when they go out of business. So what happens is trucking companies are starting to feel a cash crunch one by one. As one company goes under, a second one goes under, a third one. Sometimes you have a larger account, right? And maybe $10,000, $20,000 that somebody owes you and they go under. Now, if that happens, then you better have really deep pockets in order to survive this. And that's why we're seeing a chain reaction with a lot of trucking companies that are going under. They're starting to take down slowly other companies with them. Now, freight brokerages, I mean, are they going extinct? I mean, in my opinion, I did a full video on this and I explained why freight brokers are going extinct. And I truly believe because the shippers are starting to get smarter, the carriers are starting to get smarter, and they really don't want to pay a commission of 25, 30%, which is what sometimes these brokers make on every single load that they're brokering. A shipper can take advantage of a discount and a carrier is starting to go directly after shippers. I mean, really, can a broker compete against an asset-based carrier? Not on certain lanes or not something that we specialize in. Like, for example, our company, we specialize in freight going outbound out of Georgia. And I truly do not believe that, freight brokers can compete with our rates when we give it directly to the manufacturing plant because they still need to make their 10, 12% profit margin. So yes, we come out on top and we start getting awarded the business. The manufacturing plants also, they've become smarter and smarter. They have a database of 100 carriers that do certain lanes and they will reach out to them directly and really cutting out the middlemen. So yes, that's why we see a lot of freight brokerages going out of business, especially at the end of 2023. And I truly think that this is going to continue into 2024. But before we put all of our predictions, I just want to go over a couple of more points on what has happened in 2023. Now, from the driver's perspective, I mean, my God, how many truck drivers have suffered over the last 6 months? There's a huge exodus from our industry, whether it's companies going out of business or truck drivers voluntarily just coming out of our industry. So I have a good example. There's been 3-4 owner operators that decided to just, sell their trucks or their truck died on them and they just refused to buy another truck and refused to continue being in the industry. Okay, what they're choosing is that anything that comes their way in order to come out of this industry, they are coming out because the space, the competitiveness is becoming more and more competitive. The profit margins are becoming slimmer and slimmer. A lot of trucking companies are starting to run at a loss just to keep those wheels burning. I mean, there's no way we can sit on these load boards with some brokers paying $1.40, $1.30 per mile and still keep our head above water. Okay, so there's so much that you can take and your pockets are eventually going to run out. And a lot of trucking companies, small fleet owners, they are starting to feel it and slowly they're coming out of the space because it's just not as profitable as it used to be. Now, the truck drivers themselves, the actual truck drivers that don't own their own trucks, they have seen a significant decrease. If you're a local driver, I'm sure you've seen the decrease in hours. If you are a long haul truck driver, I'm sure you've seen a decrease in mileage. I mean, how many videos have I done that went viral in regards to layovers, in regards to waiting time, in regards to, delays between loads, or you've done your delivery and now you're waiting 3, 4, 5 hours just to get loaded again. I mean, how frequent are we starting to see this? This is becoming more and more of a norm. You know, a lot of things, it's about how adaptable you are and how quick you can adapt to these changes. And there's a lot of changes in our industry, and hopefully 2024 is going to be a much better year. There's two things we got going for us. Number one, the fuel prices are actually starting to come down, which is good news, okay? So yes, now the national average I think is about 340, 350 a gallon, where in the middle of the year is probably around 450, 460 per gallon. So that's good news, number one. The second one, they have announced in the US multiple decreases in interest rates over the course of 2024. So we're going to see those interest rates coming down. When we're going to see those interest rates coming down, that's going to give a lot more money left over to the drivers, to the trucking companies, to these owner operators. It's going to allow trucking companies to pay a little bit more on rate per mile to these company drivers. So those are really two really good news that we're carrying ourselves into 2024. Unfortunately, the prices of trucks, trailers, flatbeds, reefers, they are all still plummeting, and they're plummeting hard. So I don't see that recovering into Q1 of 2024, hopefully Q2, but I actually think it's going to take until Q3. Plus we have elections in the US, which is always, you know, not good for trucking. I think any year in the past that have had elections, it wasn't a strong year for trucking. I really hope that this will be, you know, it'll change this year, because I'm sure we all need it, and we're all looking for that, you know, next big wave that's going to uplift our economy and this recession that we're in. So there you go. You have my recap of 2023. I'm going to keep you updated in 2024. Make sure you're following along in this channel. Guys, really interesting playlists on our channel. So we have a whole playlist dedicated for new truck drivers or people coming into the industry, the ones that want to get into the industry. There's a whole playlist here for them on educational videos. The second playlist that we have that's really, really popular, and it's so interesting that even though 2023 was such a horrible year, I constantly am still getting invited to consultations on how to open up a trucking company. And I've done a whole series on opening up trucking companies in the US. It's a 7-part series on how to open up a trucking company in the US. Feel free to reach out for me if you need any help doing that. So guys, what are your predictions for 2024? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? Are we going to see an uptick in the economy? Leave me some comments down below. I'd love to read them. I'm Ronen, Ronen, and I'll catch you in my next video.